Hello and welcome to our race day coverage from Vittoria EWS-E Pietra Ligure. It promises to be an absolute cracker. Yes, welcome to a brand new venue for both the EWS and EWS-E. We are here on the beautiful Ligurian Sea, but this time in Pietra Ligure and not, of course, its famous iconic neighbour, Finale Ligure. Joining me today, our sports coordinator Rory Cunningham and EMBN's own Steve Jones. Steve, last time out, Specialised EWS-E Zermatt, Melanie Pugin, Yannick Pontal, not necessarily two winners that you would have suspected would have got the job done, but fantastic performances.
Yeah, fantastic performances, Rick. But you're right, probably they wouldn't have been my favourite going into EWS-E. But then again, EWS-E is a sport in its own right. But you know, when you look at some of the names in the entry list, you know, Nico Vouilloz, Jose Borges, you know, people who have Nico's won EWS and Jose's, you know, been top 5 right at EWS, so you know, incredibly strong. Marco Fontana, yeah, some great competitors there, you know, who they proved they can win at you know, at the highest level. Rory, just as a racer, finishing ahead of some of those names like that, what does that do for your confidence as you head into a round like this?
Does your confidence a world of good, Rick. Beating Nico Vouilloz, the most decorated male rider of all time. I mean, for Yannick Pontal, that must have been huge. Tracy Moseley, she's won 3 overall EWS titles. Melanie Pugin's been on the podium. But yeah, 2 riders that you would say were surprise victors. But if you look at the 2 riders who finished second and the experience they have, they're going to be hungry for this one and they're going to figure out what they need to change, and it's going to be an even better race here in Pietra Ligure.
Well, a very, very different course here as well in Italy. Rory, talk us through this one.
As in Switzerland, we have 3 loops with 40 minutes between each stage for battery swaps. Loop 1 is the shortest of the day at just under 17 kilometers in length and features 2 stages, Chioro di Servo and Muro Nero. Loop 2, by contrast, is the longest of the day at 24.9 kilometers with a trio of stages. Loop 3 really feels like it's shaping up to be a potential race decider. 4 stages, including that ferocious power stage Rose di Pietra, it's the penultimate stage of the race. All in all, that's a race course of 60.8 kilometers.
Well, without further ado then, let's get the action underway. Here is Loop 1 from the Vittoria EWS-E Pietra Ligure. Despite the occasional gust of cooling air from the Mediterranean, Pietra Ligure had baked all week in a second summer. A sprinkling of rain on the morning of the race would do little to temper the loose, dusty and extremely fast stages. With no individual titles up for grabs in 2020, this round would decide the coveted team's title. A freak mechanical out on the stages had left Jose Borges without any power.
I have a problem with my bike. I broken one spoke in the rear wheels and it touched in the cassette and the motor doesn't work, but I will see next one.
Tracy Mosley was the undoubted pre-race favourite heading into Pietra and was soon in control of the race and clearly enjoying the conditions.
Liaisons are a lot more technical here than they were in Zermatt as well. Do you prefer that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love that kind of feeling like you're kind of having to navigate up and down, really. And I think the e-bike allows us to go different places where it would be just unbearable on a normal bike.
The French were dominating. Emmanuel Pombo, flying the flag for Portugal, was the only non-Frenchman in the top 5.
Was okay. The first stage felt good. On the second one, on the uphill, I hit my pedal on a rock and lost a little bit. But I think I did third, and I'm feeling good for the next stages.
In the men's race, it was the two French riders picking up where they left off in Switzerland. Vouilloz won stage 1, but Pontal was only a second behind him. Little separated the Lapierre teammates, with Vouilloz finding breathing space after loop 1. Well then, an intriguing first loop. Steve, power stage starts loop 2. How key is that going to be?
Can I say, Rick, I'm super excited about this because let's face it, you are looking at the winner of this race is an incredibly technical downhill rider and a superbly technical uphill rider as well. But let's not forget how physically demanding a technical uphill stage is. These guys aren't pedaling up fire roads. They're going through rocks and steps and the most hideous bit of limestone terrain you can imagine. So I'm just so excited about this.
Rory, what makes it even more challenging is the fact that we have not one but 2 power stages this weekend. How do they differ?
Rick, first power stage, Route Bella, not very steep but very, very technical. There's some really awkward rock slabs, some real steep little punches. That's going to really test riders' grip and keeping that momentum, not stalling out. That's going to be tough. The second one coming up in Loop 3, Rose de Pietra, it's quite different. Narrow, steep, quite a loose surface with some really awkward steps. Very, very different to the first one, but just as technical and just as big a physical challenge.
Well, I've ridden them both and neither is particularly pleasurable. Let's head now to the action on Loop 2. The second loop of the day was to be the longest at 24.9 kilometres in length. A trio of stages and the extremely technical Dainese made the pedal liaison lay in wait. The first power stage of the day arrived on Loop 2 with a selection of huge rock slabs standing between the racers and the finish line.
Snap my chain in the first corner.
Try to attack a little bit more. Power stage was good. The second one I finished second, and let's go for third loop.
As the race wore on, Yannick Pontal's challenge seemed to be receding. He dropped more time on Loop 2.
Loop 2, bad. I crashed on the stage 4 at the beginning, so I lost a lot of time. It was beyond my bike, so after I pushed hard, but I lost a lot.
That crash meant that Emmanuel Pombo, clearly finding his calling on the e-bike, was promoted up into second place.
Yeah, a good second loop. I think I'm now second overall, so things are looking fine and I'm ready to fly on the last loop.
In the women's race, it was still Timo out front. The former three-time EWS champ was showing her class. She left Loop 2 with a huge lead ahead of Nadine Sapine. But it was Nico Vouilloz who was in control at the end of Loop 2.
Stage was just fantastic, the number 4, it's just amazing. Super flowing, nice dirt. Here it really looked like where I'm living.
The Frenchman was now clearly 13 seconds to the good. As the day reached its hottest point, the riders returned to the pits for the final battery swap and cool down before heading out onto Loop 3.
Yeah, we changed the batteries. We cleaned everything, check if everything was okay. I didn't have trouble with the bike, so yeah, quite good.
There we have it then, another interesting loop in the form of Loop 2. Steve, we're approaching the final stanzas of this race. How big a factor is fatigue at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's enormous, isn't it? I mean, how many sports in the world do you know where you're riding for, what is it, guys? Is it like 8 hours?
Yeah, 8 hours.
It's massive, isn't it? I mean, like I said, I mentioned earlier, an arm wrestle. Imagine going into an arm wrestle after 7 hours in the saddle. It's mental, absolutely mental.
Rory, as a racer, what can you do to try and stave off that fatigue?
Well, there's no getting away from the length of the day, Rick. In this heat, you've got to stay hydrated. You've got to keep your composure and try and save energy where possible. Not only that, with the e-bikes and some of these loops being pretty long, riders are going to have to think about battery life. It's not just going to be sticking it in boost and going as hard as they can the whole time. They're going to have to be conservative. When it gets to the end of the day, they're going to have to play it smart.
Well then, let's see who can keep their cool in Pietra. Here it is then, the final loop, the one that will decide the Vittoria EWS-E Pietra Ligure. It's loop 3. The third and final loop featured 4 stages, one of which was the second power stage of the day, the brutal Rose de Pietra. Having baked for weeks in the sun, the second power stage was coated in ultrafine dust, which made it all the more brutal. Tracy Moseley had started the day strongly and never looked back. She only dropped 1 stage, and that was the second power stage, which went to the impressive Nadine Sapin.
I'm happy with my result. I did the race with 1 battery, so I survived. I have 3%.
Yeah, very happy. Tracy, I sampled, but very happy for the race, yes.
Yeah, cool, really enjoyed it. For me it was a good mix of techie downhill stuff, lots of big pedalling, some really worst stages for me with the uphills today.
The Miranda factory pairing of Emmanuel Pombo and Jose Borges were riding high and were now in 2nd and 3rd respectively.
Yes, I'm so happy to finish in the podium again. And I tried to attack a little bit in the last loop, and but in the power stage I lost a lot of time. I'm staying in the podium, I'm happy with the team.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the 2nd place. Our goal was to win the championship, and I think we'll able to do that.
Yannick Pontal was refusing to back down, and despite that early crash was now up into 4th. Nico Vouilloz put on a masterclass all day and secured himself yet another slice of history by taking his first ever EWS-E win.
Nico, fantastic victory today. You must be very happy.
Yeah, really happy. At least I won one in my life, so I'm happy. At 44, so not too bad. No, I rode well. Honestly, really the kind of terrain I like. Everything works well, bike, any problem at all. The grip with the tire, and it was a good one, no mistakes, so happy.
A courageous ride from Estonia's Maris Meyer, alongside those of Emmanuel Pombo and Jose Borges, paid dividends in terms of the team's title. Miranda factory team had done enough and were crowned EWS-E team champions for 2020. There we have it then, the Vittoria EWS-E Pietra Ligure comes to a close. Tracy Mosley and Nico Vouilloz taking a win apiece. Now, we mightn't have had much racing in 2020, but we look forward to 2021, where you can join all the action right back here on EMBN.